All the stories I'm going to tell you today actually happened. I'm not just making stuff up. What the plaques don't tell you, however, is that the fire that night was not an accident. I think, given all of this, this is a great location for an experiment in spirit communication. Now, if you lived anywhere near this railway line when it first went in, you absolutely hated it. But if there is a bright side, he died doing exactly what he loved. And in that sense, we should all be so lucky. But what used to stand there up until about 2005 was the Artful Dodger Pub. They were another pioneer in turning this area around. Welcome to Lottie's, as it says on the awning outside the building. It was opened in 1934, the year that Prohibition ended. However, it opened as a grocery store, not a bar. And that's the practice of telling fortunes with playing cards, which happens to be something I know a little bit about. Tony, the bartender, reached underneath the bar to remove the pistol which was kept there, which, in 1967, was a good policy for this neighborhood. Bloomingdale Avenue is significant to Bucktown because historically, it is the southern boundary of the neighborhood. Annunciation was home to the largest local temperance group in the country. They were so serious about convincing people not to drink that they even had a band of marchers. This map, however, is from 1914, and I've highlighted every bar in this neighborhood in green.
Now, she may have worked in the Kuppenheimer clothing factory, which was right here on the block, or perhaps one of the many other garment-related industries which were in this neighborhood at the time.
But if I haven't convinced you yet that the Bucktown Pub is a good place to visit, then you should also know that it's haunted. We're once home to the Felt and Tarrant Manufacturing Company. You can still see the ghost sign painted at the top of the tall one. The word you can't read is comptometer. And here's a photo of one. We did receive a message from the spirits. The spirits say, "And on this tour, I reach into my files of research and pull out the darkest, most gruesome stories of this neighborhood. And the waiting police shoot all three dead. Right here at this location in October of 1970. The newspapers start calling her the Black Widow of Bucktown. Lucas really was a serial killer. He said he killed over 200 people. But the FBI says it was only 40. Only 40. It was even seen in Wicker Park. There, a man came home from work late one night and he was in his top floor apartment. And he could hear someone walking on the roof. He thought, who's working at this hour? Well, as you may have guessed, Halloween is my favorite religious holiday. Neighbors tell me that they believe Otto is still here in spirit, based on things they see and hear. And I think they may be right. We're in the 1800 block of Hermitage Avenue, just down the street from St. Mary's Church. And there's a story here that is rather disturbing. Jose had a drinking problem. Jose also had a keeping his mouth shut problem. Not all of our stories tonight will have such a happy ending. Welcome to Bizarre Wicker Park. Over the next hour or so, we are going to walk about a mile and explore some of the most interesting stories about this neighborhood. As he was standing on the gallows, the rope tightening around his neck. And now these homes are protected. But, as you can imagine, they have a lot of stories to tell. And today, historians widely regard him as one of the most corrupt mayors in all of U.S. history, which is actually quite an accomplishment. You just never know what secrets a home might hold. And there's a disturbing tale here, but it illustrates the type of neighborhood this was in the 1970s. But in the midst of all this building was turned into an artist colony. And one of the security guard tells me that when he makes his rounds at night, he can sometimes hear the sound of small footsteps following him around the building. And that's when it became the de facto headquarters of the Chicago mob. The police officer had delivered the murderer to his victim, of where there was a candy shop. And that candy shop was owned by a man known as Frank Wild. He was also known by another alias, H.H. Holmes. Let's talk about one of the most interesting and eccentric characters in all of Wicker Park, and unfortunately, one that has largely been forgotten. His name was Theophilus Noel. And this is why I say the St. Valentine's Day Massacre begins and ends in Wicker Park. And he declared that these stones have served the devil long enough, and now they will serve the Lord.